Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this combination of a live session and online. So we have Neva. I don't know if that's it. The camera can see. So we've got 4 people here and 4 people online, I think. So welcome, everyone. Just thought maybe just to settle the energy. It's been a bit kind of jumbled and chaos. It's all good though, because we all made it. Should we do a meditation? Just to start with. So yeah, put your phone on mute or silent. Just sitting comfortably. Your feet shoulder width apart. Just cup your hands in your lap. Keep your back straight. Close your eyes. And just start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, notice how the stomach rises, chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale. And we're just going to go through today's workbook lessons, review lessons. So take another sip of air in, so it's a full maximal inhale. Remind yourself that you're not the victim of the world you see. So I'm not the victim of the world I see. Scan your mind, notice any thoughts and emotions, particularly anything that feels victimizing. You feel like somehow you've been unfairly treated. There's some issue that's causing you any kind of grief. Just notice that and remind yourself that you're not the victim of the world you see, because the world can be completely undone if you so choose. Jesus says your chains are loosened. You can drop them off merely by desiring to do so. The prison door is open. You can leave simply by walking out. Nothing holds you in this world. Only your wish to stay keeps you a prisoner. Say to yourself, I would give up my insane wishes and walk into the sunlight at last. And exhale. Just have a sense of blowing out any identification with this idea of being a victim. This is the core identity of the ego. Just let that go. Imagine you're letting it go like a dark smoke. It's blowing away. It's the breeze of your breath. Find some stillness and some peace. In the gaps between breaths, you can find this exquisite stillness. Just notice that. Breathe in again. Nice, deep, full inhale breath. To the lower stomach, to the heart center. Squeeze the sphincter muscle. It's the muscle used to contract the flow of urine. Squeeze the last drops out. Just locks the energy in. Feel this lovely warm wave of energy rising up into your heart center and then into the crown of your head. Okay, just scan your mind and notice any thoughts going on. Remind yourself that you've invented the world you see. So I've invented the world I see. So I made up the prison in which I see myself. All I need do is recognize this, and I am free. I have deluded myself into believing it is possible to imprison the Son of God. I was bitterly mistaken in this belief, which I no longer want. The Son of God, the extension of this eternal, infinite, unconditional, loving presence, must be forever free. He is as God created him, and not what I would make of him. He is where God would have him be, and not where I thought to hold him a prisoner. So exhale on the truth of this. Just have a sense of dropping all these inventions. Really, this world is a fiction. It's an invention in your mind. Seems to be real, but seeming and reality are not the same, as Jesus is trying to teach us. And at the bottom of the exhale, find some peace and some stillness. Just connect in with stillness and peace between breaths. Smile. And then breathe in again. And a nice deep breath in to the lower stomach, filling up the heart center. Feeling this warm wave of energy rising up the spine, clenched sphincter muscle. It's the root lock in yoga, for those who do yoga. It's a maximal inhale breath. Again, look at your mind, notice whatever's going on there. And remind yourself that there is another way of looking at the world. Because the purpose of the world is not the one you ascribe to it. There must be another way of looking at it. You see everything upside down, and your thoughts are the opposite of truth. You see the world as a prison for God's Son. It must be then that the world is really a place where He can be set free. Say to yourself, I would look upon the world as it is, and see it as a place where the Son of God finds His freedom. And exhale on the truth of that. I have a sense of just letting go of all of your attachment to your perceptions of the world, because that's the problem. We're invested in our own opinions, our own beliefs, our own perceptions, and we think that this is true. We think that this is all true and real, and there's no other way of seeing things, and that's simply not the case. There is another way of looking at everything. And find a sense of peace from this idea, just in the gap between breaths, finding a little bit of peace, a little bit of stillness, rising, and move smoothly into the next inhale, moving into the lower stomach, clenching the sphincter muscle, lock the energy in, drawing it up into your heart center, to the upper chest, to the crown of your head. Pause at the top of the inhale. Again, scan your mind and notice any situations that are disturbing your peace in any way. Could be a minor irritation, ranging to frustration, ranging to intense rage. Whatever it is, notice it. Notice the thoughts, notice the emotions, notice how this all feels energetically in your body. Maybe there's a knot in your stomach, a block in your chest, clenched jaw, clenched fists, dry mouth, sweaty palms, wherever you are on that spectrum, notice and just remind yourself, I could see peace instead of this. When I see the world as a place of freedom, I realize that it reflects the laws of God, the laws of love, instead of the rules I made up for it to obey. I will understand that peace, not war, abides in it. And I will perceive that peace also abides in the hearts of all who share this place with me. So exhale. Just releasing all these disturbing thoughts and emotions, physical sensations that go with that, letting it all go. Imagine you blowing it all out like a black smoke out of your mouth into the nothingness that it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Find some peace in the gap between breaths. Peace is arising. Smile. Because peace is your true reality. Ultimately, there is nothing else. Breathing in again. Imagine you breathing in the very essence of holiness into every pore, every cell, your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the peace of God. Say, my mind is part of God's. My mind is part of love's. I am very holy. And just feel that holiness infusing your mind. There is only perfect love. This is holiness. That's all there is. Connect with that, feel it, experience it as the truth. Jesus says, as I share the peace of the world with my brothers, I begin to understand that this peace comes from deep within myself. The world I look upon has taken on the light of my forgiveness and shines forgiveness back at me. In this light, I begin to see what my illusions about myself kept hidden. I begin to understand the holiness of all living things, including myself, and their oneness with me. And exhale on the truth of that. Just sinking into peace, into this holiness. There's really nowhere else to go, there's nothing else to do, nothing else to experience. This perfect peace. So breathing in and out through your nose, releasing how air flows into the nostrils and the air flows out of the nostrils. Breathing in and breathing out. Stomach rises and the stomach falls. Just observe subtle sensations of the breath. And let that take you into a very deep, calm place. Recognize that your mind is part of God's, part of love's, not sometime in the past or the future, right now. And you are very holy. So my mind is part of God's, part of love's, whichever word works best for you. I am very holy. And feel that holiness in every cell of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is holy because it was created by the holy. You are in the image and likeness of God, the whole, the one, the true. So just experience that. Give yourself a couple of minutes to just sink deeply into that awareness of your holiness. There's nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. Nothing else to think about. Just breathe, watch your breath, relax and sink in into this holy place in your mind. Where all is one, all is love, all is peaceful forever. Connect with that. Give that permission to arise in your awareness fully. For the next 2 minutes of deep silence. When thoughts arise, just notice them. Imagine they're like cloud patterns just drifting by. They have no power to obscure the eternal sky. Which is your true awareness, or the light that shines through that. So just blow them away, the breeze of your breath. I could see peace instead of this. And my mind is part of God's, part of love's. I am very holy. And then go even deeper into this deep state of connectedness with your source of love and light and life itself. Deep in your mind. Sink into it, surrender completely to it. Another minute of deep silence. And so gently, on the count of 3, just bring your awareness back into the body, the breath, the senses, and the world. That you're going to stay connected to this state of awareness, deep connected state for the rest of the session and the day. And to help you do this, just observe your breath. As you're talking and discussing, keep some awareness on the breath. Keep you connected to this deeper place, in a state of mind, state of peace, state of presence for the rest of the session. So it is said and so it is done. So on the count of 3, 1, just breathing in. Notice the breath flowing in through the nostrils, stomach rising, chest rising. Some flow of air in through the nostrils. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. Notice the stillness, the peace, the holiness that's there. The more you notice it, the more it becomes your default state of awareness. Just going to stay there, stay connected to that for the rest of the session. exhale, sigh it all out. Notice the sighing sound, vibration in your throat, maybe air flowing out of your nostrils, chest and the stomach sucked back in. And the energy subsiding back down from the crown of the head into the lower stomach and the groin. So why the attention is down there on the count of 2, just noticing the weight of your body, pressing down into the chair, and feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling, body touching. It's the subtle flow of air in your skin. Breathing in through the nose. Any smell in your nose as you do that. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth. And you'll notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environments. Without any judgment, just allow sounds to arise and then pass away. And there's a tremendous peace that comes when you do this. There's no attachment to what's ephemeral. Everything arises and passes away, any sight, any sound. So you can just observe it without attachment and find the peace that underlies it. Go beyond your sense perceptions to the eternal, the unchanging nature of true reality. Smile because you're there, you're seeing it, you're experiencing it right now. The mind is part of God's eternal, infinite, unconditional presence, reality. So you're very holy. Smile at that thought. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around. Just observing, staying very casual, detached way. Don't have to name anything, judge it, or label it. Just let your eyes rest randomly on the various objects and people, bodies in the room. And notice that actually your awareness is the same. Only awareness is the same, irrespective of what you perceive with the body's eyes. One of yesterday's review lessons is God gives me everything to see, because God is in my mind. Very profound. It's in my awareness, it's my awareness. So everything I see, that awareness is the foundation of it. So why am I judging the form as something separate and different? And then I've got all kinds of thoughts and emotions arising because of it, when it's just pure awareness. It's the same awareness. Pure formless awareness. Doesn't matter what you see. And that, maintaining that awareness is the enlightened state. Just you can stay there and not separate your mind and go, oh, that's a person, that's a light switch, that's a bad person, that's a good person, etc., judgment. And you just go, actually, that's just pure formless awareness. That's all there really is. I want to share, because I don't think Robin and Patricia have heard this story. Maybe you haven't either. Yeah. So my little check-in.
Okay.
So we'll do a little check-in. I went down to the Vipassana retreat.
Oh yes, okay. I didn't hear.
And I had a really profound experience on the 9th day of silence.
Oh yeah.
It almost took nine days to get there. I guess it was cumulative. I was lying on my I was supposed to sit up, but my body was really painful. So when I came to the light on and I lay down, oh, there's John. How's it, John? And I lay down, and for about, I don't know how long it was. I mean, it wasn't very long, maybe 30 seconds. I just had this total, just blank, just no thought. As I said, it didn't last very long. But then the next thought, that when I came out of that, was I absolutely see exactly what we've done and what the Course is saying. That we have just taken this entire, our minds, we've projected them out, we've created this whole world of projection and perception, and we just covered over that pure formless awareness. That's what we've done. And I cried. It was so sad. I was like, how could we have done this? This absolute perfection is there, and yet we just covered it over with all these thoughts and emotions. And the world just justifies this. I really got it, like just in that instant, because it's experiential rather than intellectual or theoretical. You just see that's what we've done. The entire world is just a justification for thoughts and emotions spinning through our mind, which cloud over that awareness. So as long as you've got other thoughts going on, you're not aware of it. And then you feel separated from it, you feel disconnected from it. And well, we know all the problems that arise in the world of form. But it was so clear, it was just such like having had that, I suppose it's a little revelation experience, because it's just, well, it was nothingness. It was just like, but I was perfectly aware. It's just like, yeah, and then instantly, like the insight, say, well, this is what you've done. And I think maybe for the first time in my life, I really got it. It was like, I see exactly what he's saying in this book.
And then how many days did you carry on after that?
No, that was the last day.
Was that the last day? So amazing how it came to you on the last day. Imagine if you hadn't have had that. That's a,
Yeah, which is why they do 9 days of silence.
yeah, maybe.
There was a 10th day, but that's kind of you integrating back and you start talking. And
Okay.
so it's not like a deep immersion.
Yeah.
But those 9 days are like a deep dive into your mind, because you're meditating for 10 to 12 hours a day.
Jeez.
And no talking. You can't talk to any of the participants. So it's just, and no writing, no, it's just like, okay, you're just going to sit.
All together.
You can do it on your own as well. So you have
the previous 9 to 8 days.
Mhm.
How did the previous 8 days frustrating? I couldn't carry on.
No, I was pretty okay with it. I mean, I've done a lot of meditation. There are times where you sort of okay, you know, it's a bit of pain. It's physical pain because you're sitting in this posture. But that was also interesting because you sit. I remember you do these group sittings where you're not supposed to move 1 hour. So I remember the first one, because previously it's okay, you can move a bit, so like every 10 or 20 minutes I can move my position. And then they're like, okay, this one you're sitting, no movement for 1 hour. So I'm in a position and it's quite uncomfortable, like 5 minutes into it. I'm like, I probably shouldn't have got into this position. It was like a bit different from the ones I've been using. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I just observed. The whole point of it is to observe your body, observe the breath, observe sensations. This was the first day of the Vipassana where you observe the body. So the idea is you just observe sensation. You don't label it, you don't judge it. So there's this sensation in my hip going on, right? It's like, now one could, initially you're going, this is uncomfortable, there's pain, I should do something about it. That's how the ego mind works. And instead of that, I was, okay, I'm just going to practice this, I'm going to observe it. And you're scanning your whole body, so you scan the body, you get to there, okay, what is it? It's just a sensation. It's like there's some heat, there's some pressure, and if you don't label it as pain, it's just a sensation. Well, okay, fine. And I really got it. It's like just a sensation. I don't have to label it as pain. I can just observe it and then move on to the rest of the body, sitting there, come back. I just did that for 1 hour. When I got up, I could hardly walk, but is my hip ever going to recover? But it did. So it was just observing it.
Yes. So the trait is actually
Mind training. Yeah, big time. And what I actually understood Buddhism for the first time, really. Because a lot of Buddhism, just like Christianity, has been corrupted, and there's all kinds of different ideas, and they have golden Buddhas and statues. Well, that wasn't original Buddhism. That's absolutely not what he taught.
Yes, the images.
Images, exactly. It's the same as happened in every religion. So what they explain is, because this Vipassana was the technique that he taught, right? And that's why Buddhism took off 2,500 years ago, because he just gave people a practical technique. So do this and you'll feel better. And so they did the technique. Well, this really works. And so it was experiential. People, it wasn't a dogma. It was like they were experiencing more peace. And that's why Buddhism spread. But then over 2,500 years, that Vipassana kind of disappeared a bit, and various other interpretations came in. You got other streams of Buddhism. But it went off to, there's a guy called Ashoka, who'd, it was originally very cruel emperor, about 200 years after Buddha lived. And then he started the Vipassana, and it completely transformed him. He became a very enlightened, very kind. And so he just wanted to spread this. So he sent his emissaries. He sent 2 people who knew how to do Vipassana to pretty much every country in the known world, including the West. And some of them landed in Burma, and there they maintained the tradition in its original purity, so they say. This is no written record exactly what the Buddha taught. And then 2,500 years later, the chap who kind of founded this modern Vipassana movement, a guy called ACIM Workbook, went back to India and he reintroduced it, which had been a prophecy. So, and then it's gone all over the world, and I'd really encourage anyone to do it. It's a great 10 days. You just take time out. There's just no phones. Go down to Worcester and just take 10 days and do it, and it's free.
Oh, wow, that's really.
Yeah. You can give a donation. No, they don't charge you. Just have to get that. So. But as I was saying, the thing with the Vipassana is that you're observing the body and sensations as a way into the mind. So any emotion has a sensation attached to it. This was Buddha's insight. It's like, okay, well, how do you get into the subconscious mind? Well, if you observe sensation, then you're going to observe emotion, because emotion creates sensation in the body, particularly powerful emotion. You know that.
We're not aware of it.
So if you start to become aware of it, his thing was just sit and start to become aware. By scanning the body, you notice these sensations. If you've got any kind of difficult emotion, any strong emotion, you will feel sensation in the body. So now you notice it. Now it's a way to start going into your subconscious mind and observing the emotions through the sensations that are troubling you. They call it sankharas in Buddhist tradition. It's a grievance, craving and aversion. So desire, anything you desire, Jesus would call that an idle wish. Of course, a grievance is anything you avoid, aversion. I don't want this, I do want this. Right? That's how our minds work. Like, and that keeps us away from this equanimity. So they just call, the state of mind being unshakable. It's equanimity. You're not shaken by the appearances of the world. And it's just so it's another way. And I was like, wow, this is powerful. If you combine the course's mind training, because the course is all about thought, mostly observing thought, with being able to observe an emotion via sensation, thought and emotion are how the ego is made up. So it's those two things. So you combine them, it's very, very powerful. A powerful way to get back to that equanimity. And there's no doubt, like since then, it's like another layer dropped away. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. So I just encourage everyone, if you can, because when else are you going to get 10 days to go and do something like that? You won't do it in your normal daily life here. Because stuff comes in, you're all plugged in, you connected. It's like, okay, no phones, no speech, you're just gonna meditate for 10 to 12 hours a day.
Sounds hardcore. Did you
It
actually?
is quite.
Your regulation is fine. It's your experience.
Yeah, but
It's not that you share that.
I think the first few days is
You
like
don't
fasting.
really share.
The first day is
It's
fine, the
just-
second day is not as bad. The first day is the worst, the second day is not so bad. By the third and fourth day, you're not even thinking about food. I know when I did 7 days, by the time I got to the 7th day, I didn't even think about food. I
Mm.
drank water, but I didn't think about food. So the first day was the
So
hardest.
you're not
because-
fasting for 10 days.
No,
You don't
I did,
want
no,
to.
I did, no, I did a 7-day fast just
Yeah.
for myself.
Yeah,
The first day was the hardest
yeah.
because you think you
Yes.
can't help your body's automatic, your habit that thinking, oh, it's at lunchtime, oh, I'm hungry. The first day was the hardest. The second day, I had the terrible headache
Mm,
because you're detoxing your
Mm.
body with drinking lots and lots of water.
mm,
By the third day, the headache had gone and I didn't feel so bad. By
mm.
the fourth, fifth,
Yeah.
sixth day, I wasn't even thinking about food.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also
So-
done some fasting, how it works. It's all mental.
And it was only on the 7th day when I realized I was having weird sensations, like feeling a bit lightheaded, really lightheaded. If I got up and like the
Yeah.
whole world, but I think
Maybe it's
it's
time to eat.
time to eat something.
Yeah.
And feeling a bit disorientated, I felt, but I think that they say if you get past that, it actually goes away.
Mm,
But I sort of got a bit into panic about it because I was feeling very lightheaded. But the thing is, the further you go into it, there's a part of that part of you that's real, that actually wants you to do it. That actually doesn't matter after the first 3 or 4 days. So the first 3 or 4 days might be really tough,
mm,
but we have the strength to do that. And then once you get past that, as Jonathan says, yes, it's painful, but then you have those moments of enlightenment that are so way beyond what you can even begin to experience in your everyday life,
mm.
that it was worth the 10 days. So what's a little bit of pain or discomfort to get to it?
Well, it's teaching you to deal with that, because the pain is a part of our human existence. So if you don't know how to deal with it and observe, just manage it properly and observe it, perceive it properly, really.
Yeah.
Then it's going to trouble you, and that's the human condition. The Buddha said, well, it's dukkha, suffering. So it's the suffering of the human condition, and it's in the mind. It's not so much the body, it's the suffering in the mind, because now the mind attaches to the body and sensations and goes, oh, I need that, I crave that, I want that, or oh, I don't want that. And so now there's this continuous movement, and you're not equanimous. Your mind isn't unshakable. It's not in that nice, still, calm place where you're just like, actually nothing can really move me, nothing can affect me. That takes a lot of mind training to get there.
Well,
Without taking morphine.
The same thing. But, you can transcend it. There have been people who've done it. It's a hard lesson.
Much harder than if you're not in pain to start, physically pain to start.
Yeah, but the same principle applies. It's just a sensation. And it isn't me. This isn't really me. So am I really in pain? If
was
I'm
it your body experience?
Yeah, it's a sensation in the body. That's what it is. And there's some kind of awareness of that, because the mind's jacked itself into the body. So now we think but the problem is all of that's designed to make you believe you're a body, which is exactly what the course is teaching. You're not a body.
Like those people who have amputation and they have a phantom leg. My dad had.
Yeah.
And somebody also had part of their leg amputated. Their toes would or their bottom of their feet would be itchy. And meantime, there wasn't even burning.
So it's in the mind.
Yeah.
And so the whole body's in the mind. This is what Jesus is saying. Like all of your sensations, all of your body senses that seem to be so real, where's this all happening? It's a mental experience.
It's a neurological
Yeah, we can't even really, and science can't even really explain it, but actually it's all in the mind. Your mind is creating the entire experience, and it's doing it so well, we're projecting, perceiving so well that we don't even know we're doing it. So now I have a sensation, oh, I can feel that. Well, can you? Are you sure? I mean, you watch The Matrix.
Yeah.
Morpheus says, is that air? You think that's air you breathe in? Really? Because that's what we think, yeah? But are we really? No, there's no objective way of telling.
Yeah.
Because it's all perception.
I could actually experience.
And you cannot separate the observer from what's now the observed thing. We've got so jacked into it that we can't go, hang on, is what I'm observing actually truth, or is this just part of a hallucination? I'm dreaming.
Well, you know that Sybil girl who had all those personalities in the one, she'd be diabetic.
Oh.
And as she moved out of it, she would have no asthma, no whatever.
Yeah,
and
I
she'd
know
swap in
somebody
and out.
who, when they were one personality, they had an allergy to oranges.
Yeah.
But when they were the other personality, they
didn't.
ate oranges all the time.
So,
So it shows you how split our mind is from the truth. And
That the allergy is not physical. Clearly. Because it's the same body, and then whoop, oh, now I'm in my other personality. Oh, no problem with that.
Well, I've had one.
Confounds medical science, doesn't it?
But you're not told you've got cancer.
Can you take away the writing and blow yourself up? Very small on my screen.
Hazel, what are you saying?
you're very
Take
small.
the writing away and blow yourself up. I can hold in a very small space on my screen.
Yeah, it's because I'm sharing the screen. That's why. So
You know,
I can stop.
Yeah, with all of that. I had a very big reaction to anti-inflammatory.
Okay. Anyone got anything else to? I've had my sharing. Anything to share?
Hello, it's Hazel. I'm trying to tell you. I've had
Hazel, anything to share?
Sorry? What? I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sort of.
I had a terrible reaction to anti-inflammatories to the point where I've had to now go on to cortisone, and it hasn't left me yet, and that's going through a dermatologist. Fortunately, my son took one look at me and made an appointment to see him because I felt it. Thank God.
Okay.
But
So
it's not funny. The itching, the swelling, I had feet like Michelin tires, my legs, my feet. I
So
don't
can
know.
Hazel, can you just observe all of that and not get emotionally involved in it? I guess is the question.
Well, the big thing was I couldn't even sleep because of itching. Thank God that's all passed, but the redness is still there. The swelling's gone down, but it's a very gradual thing. Unfortunately, I had to go into cortisone for it.
She told me 7 times already.
I had it for 4 months. No one could do anything. No doctor could do anything.
Okay, well, just try and Hazel, try and apply these principles. You know what you want to do is not judge it as real, not just try and observe the sensations. So whatever it is, itching, swelling, you just observe and you don't judge it. You don't go, this is bad, or I have an aversion to this, this shouldn't be happening. You just observe the sensation. Try that as a practice, because I think that's the only way really to deal with it. And then you might find that the symptoms kind of, well, even if they're there physically, they're not really bothering you mentally and emotionally. That's really the key. It's how are you interpreting it? Okay, anyone else want to share anything?
My son spent a lot of money on sending me to the dermatologist. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened.
Okay, well, it's good that you've.
In fact, I've got a friend who works for doctors, and she said, you shouldn't even be walking around. Your legs are so swollen. You should have them up. And I thought, yeah, even if I have legs next month, that's how bad it was. I was very swollen.
Okay, thank you, Hazel, for sharing. We're going to move on to someone else here because there's quite a few people. Anyone else? Sue, John, anything to check in on? Anything to share?
I think I'm good, thank you. tuning in. Been playing background this morning.
We can't hear you, John. You'll have to speak a bit closer into the microphone.
I've been playing pétanque this morning, so I'm just adjusting.
All happening. Did you manage to win your game?
No, I lost.
Oh dear. Okay. Did you lose with equanimity?
I did. Yeah.
That's good. Did you enjoy the game anyway?
I learned something.
Learn something. Yeah, well, that's the main thing. So you learn a lot more from your defeats than from your victories. So
Thank you.
that's any consolation.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Sue, anything to share?
No, all good. My mouth is, I think my mouth is totally better. No?
Wow. Okay. That's
Yeah.
good. Maybe
Yeah.
just for those who just share the story in a minute or two, because there's a little miracle here.
Yeah, I can't really remember how the miracle.
Right.
Well, it must be about 2 months ago. My mouth was feeling really, really dry and sore inside. My tongue was sore, my mouth was sore, and I've got sore lips as well. And I went to the doctor. I had blood tests. I was trying this dry mouth gel, and nothing was shifting it, and there was no apparent reason for it, so it was really odd. And then I think it was during a meditation, Jono? No,
One of our sessions.
sorry, one of our sessions, yeah.
One of the sessions we did, yeah. Right? We talked about it.
Yeah, and I just decided to let it go, and from that point on, it just started to get better. Yeah.
And now it's gone.
No, it's gone.
There we go. Because you just didn't give it any power.
Yeah.
And the medics, the medical people, doctors and so on, they had no idea. They couldn't give you a reason.
It's really weird. No, there's no reason for it.
Well, that's because it's all in the mind. That's why. If it's your mind, you were doing all this forgiveness and undoing, and the ego was like, no. Brakes on. We've got to give you some physical condition to pull your mind back into body awareness. That was what was going on. And no doctor, unless they understand psychology, does and deep psychology is going to tell you that, because they're looking for a physical cause, but there is none, especially with something like that. But actually everything, even if there is apparently a physical cause, everything, the diseases of the mind, this is what Jesus is saying.
Is psychological, so-called.
Well, it's all psychological.
Yes.
It's all a dream. Your body is a projection of the mind. I mean, if as you said, if someone can have an allergy one moment and then they switch personalities and they don't.
Yes.
Like, how does that work? It must be mental, not physical.
When they get people who have a car accident, they forget who they were, and then previously they were on 6 medications,
And then it's all like, I don't need it anymore.
Yeah. Because they just forget that part of their program.
Yeah. So it is really about that forgetting. Forgiveness is forgetting the ego. That's what it is. Saying I don't need to hold on to the thoughts, the emotions. I can just drop it all and be free. And it works, but you'll notice that there's a resistance. Some part of your mind doesn't want to do it.
And it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't know if you want me to share like what happened between my mother-in-law and I.
Yeah, please
Even
do.
before I started with Terry or the Course in Miracles or anything, my mother-in-law, because we got divorced and then I was separated, and my mother-in-law, she just didn't like me. She just decided, no, I wasn't good enough for her son, and one thing and the other. And so there was a lot of bitterness. And I was annoyed because, I was just trying to get through life. And couldn't understand 1 minute I'm good enough, and then the next minute I'm not good enough, sort of thing. Anyway, she developed breast cancer in her left breast, and she went for the tests and the sonars and the mammograms, and they said no, she needs to have the cancer removed, which she was now in hospital. And at about 10 o'clock that morning, she phoned me and she said she just wants to tell me that she can't go under the knife unless she tells me that she's forgiven, and that she's so sorry for all the trouble we've gone through. And I could feel how absolutely sincere she was. She was beyond sincere. I just sat and cried the whole way while she was talking. I said, I'm so sorry we've had a fight, and I hope, I'm sorry about the arc, and I hope we can, be friends after this. And anyway, she was supposed to have it off at 2 o'clock, but for some unknown reason it got delayed till about 5 o'clock. You know how ops sometimes end up being later than intended. And when they got into surgery, the surgeon couldn't find the cancer. There was no cancer in her breast. And they thought they had the wrong patient, the wrong breast. They checked, everything was right, and they were bowled over. They could not find the cancer anywhere. And
did they do the operation anyway?
they did the operation anyway and removed the breast, couldn't find the cancer. No, dead serious. But
Well, Robin's married to a surgeon, so she knows. They're trained to cut.
No.
But it was only years later when I started going to Terry, I realized actually her forgiveness had absolutely removed the cancer. And it was her anger and bitterness towards me that had created the cancer. And the moment she was willing to let that completely go, but let it go so completely that she wanted to be free of it, that the cancer disappeared.
Yeah.
And
Literally in a few hours.
in a few hours.
She'd had the check
She'd
what,
had
a day
it the
before.
day
or something.
before, and it
So
was
in 24 hours,
um,
just gone.
she had just in that time, and that's why they were confused when she
I'm
got
sure
into
they were very
they had the wrong patient. They like checking everything. No, she's the right patient. Everything's correct. But it was for me years later when I began to understand forgiveness. That is complete forgiveness. That is, I can't live with myself until I've done this. I've got to let it go. I've got to forgive her. I've got to do all of it. And I realized then that we are the only people who create cancers and diseases in our minds. And at the same time, we're the same people who can forgive it and let it go. If we're willing. And so to me, it's been a really comforting lesson in my journey with the course, that how powerful forgiveness is, and just letting something go. And I've been actually reading and listening to a book called The Untethered Soul. It's so in line with the Course in Miracles. But he literally says, if you have a thought, be aware of the thought. Notice what you're thinking, but let it go. The moment you hold on to it, the moment you say this cupcake, oh, this cupcake has meaning. Oh, look at the color. You begin to make it real. But if you, oh, this is the most delicious cupcake, but I'm going to eat it and enjoy it and let it go. Then the energy is not focusing on something. The moment we focus our energy on one specific thing, whether it be hatred, resentment, money, unhappiness, whatever it is, the moment our diseases, oh, I'm struggling with this disease, we make it real. And the more we focus on it, the more real it becomes. What happens, it's just energy. In the beginning, it was just a thought. Now you focus more and more on that, it becomes solid. And the moment you make it solid, it manifests. And it's the most interesting book I've read in a long, long time. But what I love the most, it's all about letting go. It's everything is about letting go. Observe what you're wearing, but let it go. It has no meaning. Observe that you're a body, but let it go. just notice what you're doing. And was the first time I actually began to experience who I am. And that is that I'm pure consciousness, pure love. And that I'm not any of these things that are happening around me. If I'm having a fight with, or an argument or discussion with anybody, when I'm finished, I can let it go. I'm just observing that's what's happening. And I found it very powerful. So any of you interested in finding a way of letting go, the whole book explains carefully how we've got to manifest in this life, how things that we are as children, we push down into our subconscious mind, but they're still there, and we're playing with them, and we building them, because every time we ignore that thing that is we pushed into, we actually making it bigger in our lives and things like that. It's a really powerful book, and if any of you are interested, really get it, because it's so in line with the course, but it has a simplicity about it. It has this, and he wrote it when he was actually being sued. He was a CEO of a company, and he was being sued by another company, and the court case would take 2 years, and he was about to lose everything. He says for a whole year, if a thought came up, he let it go. Whatever came up, he let it go. He would deal with it, but he'd let it go. No. And after one whole year, the court case was halfway through, they phoned one day and said, it's dropped. Just like that. Because he was constantly letting it go. He wasn't manifesting. He wasn't worried about the outcome. He wasn't trying to sort it out. He was just letting it go. And it might take time, but every time you have that, just let it go.
But you've got to do the things, the worldly things.
Like
Because
what?
he said he did have lawyers.
Yeah, he had lawyers. He went through the process.
In the end, it was all unnecessary.
Yes.
But what he was doing was letting go of the process. And one day his lawyer phoned and said,
It's not that you
it's
don't.
done, they don't want to sue you anymore. So, but the point is, he wasn't holding on.
Yes.
What was the
He
outcome?
wasn't
How was I
holding
going to resolve it?
And the worst is when you think ahead, what if, what if?
What if I
Yeah,
lose?
what
What if I go to
lose?
prison?
Yeah,
Whatever.
what if?
No.
Exactly.
That for me is the worst part of it.
Yes.
Is when you project into the future
Future.
and you think, oh my God, that's going to happen. And that's the worst.
Because that is going to happen, because you're already making it happen, because you're thinking that. But if you have that thought, there's nothing, he says, there's nothing wrong with the thought.
No.
Just
Let it go.
let it go. Let it. So the other day, I have to share this. My husband decided to take a perfectly good laptop, dismantle it, because we use it for our TV. We don't have DSTV or anything like that. So we now have the laptop controlling our TV, and put it into a box, which is hideous. And half the time doesn't work anymore, because the laptop, it's got a thing to push it on. Why? Just let it go. So I said, just out of curiosity, why did you do it? Well, I shouldn't have even thought of it. And he started, yak. You know what? Just let it go. Don't think about it. Don't think about what he's saying. Everything he said, I'm observing he's angry and frustrated with me, but I'm going to let it go. And he's halfway through his sentence, he goes, what were we talking about? I went, oh my word, this is actually amazing. What were we? He had come, and all I was doing was saying, yes, he's angry, let it go. He's saying this, let it go. Let me let that go, what he's done with the computer. And it just is so freeing. I can't even tell you guys. Your whole body begins to lighten up. Suddenly, I didn't have this feeling in my stomach. I just felt lighter. And that's all I want to share with you. The lightness that begins to come about you is so amazing, so precious. And what do you want? Do you want to be light and peace and joy and happy?
You want to
Or do
be
you want
right.
to be
No.
weighed down with all of these things that have been blocking us from love's awareness? So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. That's a lovely
So now
miracle story.
I'm ordering that book. Never mind.
Michael Singer.
Yes,
Yeah, come across
So
it.
he said, call me Nikki.
yes.
Yeah.
In the interview.
But this is the secret. Everyone who's really got, it might be through the course or something else.
He's Buddhist.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing.
Same thing.
It's letting go. It's whatever you want to. I mean, that's the simplest way of saying it. You're letting go of your mental and emotional attachment to these things. That's what you've got to do, and that's the most powerful transformational manifestation technique you can ever come across. There's nothing that's going to do the same. Just let it go and trust that it's going to work out in whatever way. I mean, in this case, they just dropped the court case. Your mother-in-law,
Yeah.
cancer gone. I mean, that's not something consciously you can't do that.
No.
Can't go, oh, cancer's got to go away. Cancer's got to. The more you do that,
No,
it's not going to go
because
away.
she's still holding on to
Yeah,
the thought of
But
cancer.
undo the cause. The cause was bitterness and anger and resentment that had now got manifested into this cancer. And when she dropped the underlying cause, the healing was
Instantaneous.
instantaneous.
And
They
because
just,
because they told me, and I phoned the doctor, and she said, "Oh, we don't understand." I said,
No,
"I
they
don't
wouldn't.
under- Are you sure? She says, "Here's the mammogram," and it was all there. But it's that absolute letting go, and I could feel her sincerity
Yeah.
when she was telling me that she wanted to let me know she'd forgiven me.
That's why you were crying.
And I knew that connection was so there. I just sat and cried because it was freeing, not just for her, but for me, because I didn't need to be angry and bitter and resentful towards her. So and if we're all one mind, don't we want everybody to have that experience when we're forgiving and letting go?
well, that's the idea of forgiveness and the holy encounters. If I forgive you, then you feel that. Now you feel lighter and freer. And both minds are now coming back into oneness. So you're playing your part in the atonement, in that oneness. Well, just apply the course. I'm not saying anything with the course.
And
is saying.
even
just doing it.
Course, and my lesson
Well, you've just got to
today-
let go.
My lesson today is love holds no grievances. Yet I had such a fight with my ex who happens to live on my property.
Your greatest forgiveness lesson.
Yeah. Because I decided we were meeting for lunch and we were going to meet at 12:30. And I said 11:45 should be fine, but then I'm thinking, I thought, no, I've got to go past Willie's on the way to get something to eat. So I went to him, I said, I'm leaving now in 5 minutes, 11:30, because it's going to take me 15 minutes to get there and then do the shopping and then to get
So you had it all
all the way
worked
to
out.
Brian's. So I had it all worked out. Boy, no, I am having my coffee and I was screaming with him and it was carrying on and on. It was F all the way. And it was terrible. But what happened? When we got to the restaurant at Wellness Center, it was actually closed. So my timing was perfect. I had to tell him that. I am right. You see, the universe is working for me.
Not for you.
I am right. Now that is my big lesson.
You prefer to be right or happy.
Rather be right or happy. Rather be right.
Normally.
That's my mom.
I love what you said, reading the things and what grievance is. Grievance is that attachment, or what did you say?
Oh, the wish to be happy. What
did you say about grievance and what it was?
It's an aversion.
Yes, an aversion.
Craving, and the Buddhists call it craving and aversion, but it doesn't matter what you call it.
Yes, but it's beautifully put, because we think a grievance is when somebody's done something against us.
Yes.
We really think that's a grievance. We're holding that grievance. But what am I when I'm not happy and say I'm cooking and I'm just in a bad mood and hating doing this. That's also an agreement.
Sure, yeah. It's
But we
aversion.
just, we only think certain things are grievances. We only think, oh, I don't like that carpet, but we don't think of it as an agreement. But actually it's blocking us the moment we have an opinion about it. So I love what you
Well,
said.
aversion.
Yes, an aversion.
Because if you avert anything, what are you doing? You make it real.
Yes.
It's really there and it's disturbing me and I've got to, well,
Yes.
you just made that whole thing, whatever it is. Could be the weather, it could be your carpet, could be a person.
Yes.
It's the same thing. There's a movement in your mind to make it real and then you feel that resistance. Resistance is another word.
Yes.
You feel that resistance and that makes the whole thing real, doesn't it?
So
In your mind.
something that I do as well, which as part of that is for me really useful, is sometimes when something happens as well, I just kind of say, I couldn't have planned this. I mean, I can't even plan what I have for lunch every day. You know what I mean? I can't even plan anything at all. I mean, I try and plan and it hardly ever works. But when something happens that is out of, you know, it's like unsettling or it's weird or whatever, you have to think to yourself and think, like Mark Singer said, 2.8 billion years worth of light has traveled here now. I'm in the middle of it and I experienced that. It must be something for me to experience because I need to figure something out. And if you push it away, that 2.7 years of traveling light years from wherever, I've lost that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to figure it out.
Yes.
So figure it out, damn it. And I say to myself, figure that out. Why did it happen? Why did it happen? It's because if you don't, you just let it go. Because if you just say, no, it's rubbish, it's that person's fault, he's always an idiot, it's whatever, then you're chucking or you're throwing everything out with the baby with the bathwater. But if you actually sit there and think, okay, I bumped my bumper. I dropped my coffee all over my laptop.
Yes.
I've got 2 staff at the moment. 2 have been taken away from me. I've now 2 staff down. My boss told me this morning, you know, you're not going to hire anybody else.
Right. So you've got to do the work with the staff.
Okay. So I was up at 4 o'clock this morning and I just thought to myself, game on. I haven't got 2 people and I'm going to figure out a way to automate more tasks. So it's raised me up through that because now I have to create people out of my IT system. I have to. So I have to do it. So for me, it's a learning experience. It's going to grow me. I'm still working with my team. I want Andrea as my boss. I understand it's COVID and times are tough. So all of it just was absolutely fine. And I've got not 1 iota of worry to go to work tomorrow because
You didn't resist.
2.7 billion years worth of cosmos and stuff.
For 16
billion
billion years,
16 billion years came up this morning and that was my message. And if I fight with that, I ain't got no chance of winning. So I have to accept it. I have to go with it. I have to say, gotcha, loud and clear, roger that. I'm onto it. And that's it. And I'm not stressed about it.
No.
Because imagine if I gnashed my teeth and wailed and cried and fought with my boss. I'd feel physically ill. I would be physically ill. Like I was saying, I worked at a job once, but there was so much antagonism that I used to get like skin itches. I used to lie in bed at night. I used to scratch myself until I bled. That's how anxious I was. And when I left the job, I stopped. I thought it was my washing powder or my sheets or something. And then a number of the guys were getting it, but they were constantly in the server rooms and they were saying it's the radiation from all the servers and all that stuff. So we weren't sure. But then when I left that job, I've never, same washing powder, same cream, same everything.
But you didn't have the radiation. Sorry.
And I still sit around computers and Wi-Fi every day.
Psychosomatic.
Yeah, it was totally that. But that's just my
It's a
observation
thought.
of today. And then also another thing is that when I was in Durban with all those riots going on, you know, it all just went totally bananas. And the one night, my
Pardon
husband,
the pun.
yeah, no, it just went it was the scariest I've ever been in my life. But my husband had to fly to Joburg, so it was me and my daughters in the house, and we've got no guns in our house. And I was lying there thinking to myself, and we don't have a like electric fence or anything. And I just thought to myself, and we could hear the gas bottles, and they looted the macro, and the place was burning. You could hear the gas bottles going off, and they burnt that sulfur factory, and the sulfur was raining down. You couldn't open your windows because the smell was so bad. And anyway, and the girls were terrified.
Mm.
And I was trying to keep them calm and everything. And I lay in bed that night, boom, 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 in the background. And you can see this orange haze over the hill of this fire going on, this inferno going on. And people were patrolling. We were on 2-hour patrols. They blocked off the highway. You know, your neighbor, the guy across the road, Jono and his nephew were all standing patrol, trying to keep people out the neighborhood. It was really, really scary. And I lay there and I thought to myself, I'm here. I'm here because I'm meant to be here. Because my sister-in-law said, get the girls on a plane, come to Cape Town. So I thought to myself, maybe I can go down to Cape Town. And I just lay there that night and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm here for a reason. You know what I mean? If I was in Joburg working, I'd be in Joburg working. So this is it. I must just cope with what's happening. I must cope with it because I need to come to terms with it. And I don't say that it was happy for anybody, and there's a lot of unhappy outcomes of it, and a lot of things have fallen out. But at the time, when my previous experience would have been literally biting off my nails and taking Nurofen because I was so anxious and trying not to freak my children out and trying not to get on a plane and disappear and thinking my house is going to be burnt down and projecting that, oh my gosh, my house is going to be burnt down, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job and all these things. So I just let it go, and I thought, okay, there's something blowing up. I can hear it blowing up. I'm very lucky. Greg next door to me has got a gun, and there he goes. He's patrolling. Wow, I'm lucky that these nice people are out there. And then I joined the patrols as well, and I met the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Wow. Really, the camaraderie, the people. I mean, the one guy, they let us into a shop early because all the shops had been closed down for 2 days. There's no petrol, no food, no nothing. The queues were long. And we were on one corner where there's a shop, and I did this, I think the 4 to 6 shift. And so anyway, at 6, the next people were coming, and we were leaving, and then the shop owner came and said, but if you want to come in and buy stuff if you want to. But I just shoved 200 rand in my pocket just in case, because I didn't take money or whatever, I didn't think anything would be open. So the guy said, aren't you going to go in and buy something? So I said, no, for 200 rand, I mean, I can, but I can't really buy anything. He said to me, how much money do you want? I've never seen this man in my life before. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, here's 1,000 rand. I said, but how, I don't even know who you are. How will I give it back? He said, I'll be here tomorrow morning and I'm doing the 4 to 6 shift. Just bring it back to me. So he gave me 1,000 rand. And then the next morning, I went back there and I said, there's your 1,000 rand. He said, oh, thanks very much. And put it in his pocket. It was just,
trust.
It was absolutely, everybody was there. And it was just a feeling of, we all in this, you know what I mean? There was no animosity. There was just, everybody was, and it was calm. You know, there were no, the police were coming and going and the army were coming and going. But where we were, there was an incredible peacefulness and calm of people just standing. We were just standing. We didn't have any weapons, but we were just standing. And you know, we were being polite to each other, and some people would stop their car and come out and put a flask of coffee down and come and fetch it later. But it was for me, it was the most, and I said that's why I stayed there. Because if I'd run to Cape Town, I would have lay in my bed thinking my house can be burnt down. I would have been terrified. But then I would go back and I'd say to my girls, I'm going, you set the alarm, I'm going out. If you need anything, phone me and I'll hop in the car and come back. And I'd come back and they'd say, are you okay, Mom? And I said, guys, we can't be afraid. It's absolutely fine. They're kind people out there. There are people who care about everybody out there. And we're all taking a turn. And I want you to know this, because I think our children grow up in this country being afraid of everybody. Everybody's leaving. They fear of everybody. And then when the shops came up, the most unbelievable thing for me was when you walked into a shop, the lady behind the counter or the guy there or whatever, the unbelievable feeling of goodwill. They were happy to see you and you were happy to see them. And there was no kind of weird racial feeling. There was nothing like that. Really, you walked in and there was eye contact. Normally people don't make eye contact when they're on their phone and you're trying to check out and they're busy chatting to someone else. But there was just such a good feeling. And I can't tell you how important that was for me, I must say. So for me, that was a very powerful experience in not being afraid. So those two things for me have been really important in the last time. And I must say,
with all of this drama that's going on in the world at the moment as well. You know, that thing about what can I do about it now? What can I do about it now? The only thing I can do about it is change my mind about what I'm thinking about. Am I thinking about California burning? What can I do about that? I can't do anything. I can't do anything about California burning or anything.
Well, one of the things I've learned from the course is there are no mistakes. So even the riots have a purpose we might not understand. But sometimes if you watch some documentaries, 100 years later, they're, oh, this actually served the purpose, even though at the time we don't know. It's kept you calm. It's taught other people lessons. It's whatever it is. So if the universe can't make a mistake, so whatever happened, whether it's the fires in California, the riots in South Africa, or the fires in Australia, or whatever is happening, is absolutely perfect. And so that me. The other day, my son came and said, oh, I burned my car. And it's perfect. It doesn't, just because you're upset or you're cross with yourself because it happened, doesn't mean that there's something wrong with it. It just is what it is.
It's all perfect.
Yeah.
Harry, it's all perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, may I add something extra?
Yeah, Hazel.
It was a little miracle, but it didn't let me get that far. That when I went back for the other treatment, I had to ask for something.
Press number 20 and then number
Fritz
3.
joining us.
Fritz?
Oh, okay. Fritz is joining us. Sorry, Hazel. What were you saying?
I was trying to say that when I went back for the second
Okay, just pause this. There's way too much noise to hear you. Sorry. It's all kicking off. What's that?
She's prepared to drive me all the way out.
I'll take you.
He's going to be, yeah, okay.
Well, I'll take you.
All right.
Okay, sorry. Patricia's just on. Is Fritz joining us? Oh, okay.
But he's going to.
Maybe just Patricia, just put it on mute so we don't have any more calls. That's okay. Hazel, sorry, so you were saying?
I went back for the second interview. She didn't charge me anything.
What did he say?
I felt
Well, that's nice.
almost cried all the way home that she could show so much goodwill, and I was able to get all that money back to my son. That he didn't.
There we go. Oh, so it's a miracle. I think, just to reflect on what Robin said, I think in times where there's a lot of crisis, there's a huge opportunity to go the other way.
Yeah.
You're either going to go, I'm going to freak out and go into fear and violence, or I've got to move strongly in the other direction. And I think that's what happened. So, then the purpose of it is to awaken people from the ordinariness of their just daily lives, going through the motions, to like, actually, there is this power within us and we can find it. And the crisis has forced us to do that. And there's a huge value in that.
And
No
all
doubt.
the people who helped clean up, nobody paid them. They just all got together and helped clean up and tidy. And apparently one of the people were restocked in 7 hours, which would normally take 4 working days. So that willingness to help and to not see it as a bad thing, what can I do, actually motivates people to do some amazing things. When I saw it on Facebook, because I'm not aware up here, how can we help? But I saw the people who just given up their time to go and help all of this. That touches you. That touches you, that makes you realize we are so interconnected and how amazing people really, truly are. It's not about the right.
And it's so nice as well, they were sending truckloads, some churches and things, and we were called up the one day, they've got this group, and they said, please, we need hands at the Lions place down, and my daughters were there, and I said, what do you need help doing? They said, the containers arriving, we need to unpack. There's nappies and food and baby food and everything. Everybody just made food parcels. And literally, I took my daughters down because I wanted them to be part of this. And literally, there were the most odd assortment of people, you know, my two girls and old people, young people of all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
And here this container, you know, those containers they put on the huge ships. Here's a guy on his own. He drove that truck from Joburg. He left at midnight on his own after they were rioting and burning trucks. He drove the truck. I mean, literally, people were applauding every time you saw a truck because those guys are brave. You know, they've been
running the gauntlet.
So he reversed this huge thing and literally we offloaded boxes and boxes packed to the roof of nappies and things that people had just sent, little baby grows that they'd washed and shoes. And I can't tell you, we just unpacked all their bars of soap and everything. And it was all given. Everybody gave. And then we just unpacked it and he got back in his truck and off he rode. It was just unbelievable. You know what I mean? And I said to my girls, you stay here, you help unpack. So for me as well, it was a learning experience to them of how much generosity there is, even though we've got COVID, and even though we've had an economic slump, and even though all these things are happening, everybody had help. So it was really, for me, it was really an emotional experience for me because, and my husband was at the hospital and all of that. And, you know, it was just every night you get into car and he drives through and I say to him, where are you going? Army rifles on the road. And he said, Robin, I'll be fine. And I couldn't speak to him because he would go into the theatre and I wouldn't know when he's coming back. And I just thought, he's fine. What can I do about it? He has to be fine or he has not to be fine, but I'm not in control of that. So it was an amazing experience of, like you say, you still have to do stuff. Still have to work the next morning and still have to do stuff. And yes, there's no milk. Sorry, girls, there's no milk. Sorry, there's no this, sorry, there's no that. But yeah, it was really interesting. It was, I can imagine, you know, people in wars, you know, you see the World War II footage of the people down in the bomb shelters and all that kind of stuff. And I can imagine that energy as well of people, you know, getting together.
Why does it take that negativity to come out? Even when London was bombed, afterwards they come out and not only play soccer, but they clear the rubble and all of that. It's incredible to think of all of that. You know, that sometimes in the worst atrocities that this man does to each other, that the most good comes out.
Well, because the reason is because love is.
Why doesn't it last?
Well, it could. It could. If we all went, okay, why couldn't we always be like this? It could. It doesn't have to come out in a crisis. But it's part of the awakening. In order to realize it, sometimes you need the crisis.
Yes.
To trigger, okay, well, we really, you know, we've got to do something here. So we're either going to go into total fear and meltdown, or we're going to stand together.
And it's actually there to prolong it, to extend it.
In your mind, you make a choice to. So every time you meet somebody, every time you're in the traffic, every time you, like, if you, you know, somebody cuts you off or whatever, it's your own thing. Yeah, because my children are fighting with each other the one evening. And I said to them, guys, outside on the street, people are fighting and you're fighting in our house. I said, do we have to have a fight in here as well? When they're fighting out there, isn't that scary enough? This is scary as well if we're fighting in our house. I said, which one is wrong and which one is right? Stop fighting with each other. We're the only people we know. You, me, and Dad, we're the only people that we know in this town, and we're fighting with each other. How does that work? So that was also for me.
They get it.
They did. I said to them, imagine if we can't be friends and we expect 45 million people in KZN to be friends.
Starts at home.
Yeah, we
Debbie was another one who did the non-controls.
She's very.
What you would have seen.
Sorry, Hazel, we didn't catch that.
Debbie, I've been in constant contact with her. She was also on night patrols.
No.
Okay, Debbie Fox.
Yeah,
Okay. He's also done the course.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, yeah, it's certainly a life-changing experience for a lot of people, having been through that. So you know, there's a benefit in that,
Well,
no doubt.
The latest thing I read was, what is the lady who's very much into death and dying? I can't remember her name. I read her book. After the war. people
Yeah,
But
Hazel, we can't really hear you too well, unfortunately. I don't know if it's your microphone or what. So anyone else like to share anything? We've got James and Karen. Sorry, having quite a long sharing, but I think that's a really valuable perspective on these rights. I mean, it's something that's been current. Well, what was it, a month ago or something? Just to get a personal perspective and go, this is my experience of it, and you'll never forget it, will you? So, thank you for sharing that. James, anything to share?
No, not really, Jono.
Okay.
I
I just thought of you when Robin was talking about the truck drivers. I thought you would have appreciated that.
I didn't hear it. I popped to the loo, so.
Okay. No, there were some truck drivers who had to drive stuff down, and there was the danger of them getting hijacked and their trucks being burnt and so on. So, but they did it anyway. So I thought you would have appreciated that.
The person driving the truck.
Yeah, they just did it because they were like, this needs to be done. People need the food and so I'm doing it. Finding that fearless presence. And then Karen, anything to share?
Yeah, I mean, we were basically down last weekend in the KZN region, so we saw a number of the shops and malls that were looted. We just drove past them, but in Moy River specifically, you could see the roads that were burned, and there was a lot of patchwork taking place. So yeah, you just realize as well that the people pulled together, and we saw these most amazing, inspiring videos. I don't know who sent it. I don't know if it was actually sent on the group, but a guy in a wheelchair, like picking up the debris after the fires, and people pulling together.
And that one,
and then we were divinely protected, and we did some scuba diving, and we dived with whales and dolphins, and they don't have that kind of crap out there on the ocean.
No, I mean, there's we think we're the most intelligent species on the planet. That's a joke.
We're not.
Really.
We're like so.
The dolphins are the one. Everybody's like, what are they doing?
The dolphins and the whales, they just get on with their shit,
They just play, don't they? They spend a lot of their time playing.
Absolutely, they fin slap. They
work really hard to produce all this stuff, and then we burn it all down. And I mean, I suppose they don't really know what's going on in the ocean, but only how it affects them in the ocean. But any alien looking at this, we got these people are just crazy. This is a nut. It's a nut house.
But that just shows how easily fear is in people believe in what other people are saying. Now, I promised today I nearly fell off the chair. My husband was watching something and I was getting ready. And these bird watchers, he was watching a documentary about these bird watchers, and they were talking about a particular bird that it's a woodpecker, but it puts quite huge acorns in the tree and they make holes all over the trees in America. So somebody in the 50s wrote a paper that woodpeckers were communists because they shared the same domain. And I think, how? Because communism was what they were focused on. Now, the woodpeckers were communism, and they were just saying how stupid we as humans can fall into that trap.
Did anyone actually take any consideration?
I'm sure not. The woodpeckers didn't care.
No, but any humans. I mean, a woodpecker's communist.
But can you see, because communism was, Americans were so scared of communism that they even made nature a communist, because these woodpeckers, they share cohabitation. It's very interesting because most birds don't do that, but these woodpeckers particularly do. But now they were communists because they were sharing the same cohabitation and the way they were living. And I sat there and I said to him, do you actually, because he was on his phone, I said, do you see what's happening? So then he looked up and said, oh, I can't. There's actually, they had the article that had been now in whatever thing they would legislate.
Someone actually published it.
Somebody published it in 1960 or something. But can you see how we buy into things?
We'll just look at like Salem with the witch trials,
Yes.
when they just like burnt people and whatever because they thought they were all witches.
You know, that fear, and take the riots. The moment somebody had started that rumor, how people just bought into it. They just bought into the idea, we have to go and riot, we have to go and loot, we have to.
Well, it was free stuff.
Yes, but it was also fear driving them. And one woman actually on Facebook posted that she'd stolen 3 fridges, and these fridges were chock-a-block with food. And the stuff she'd stolen, she actually posted it on Facebook. And obviously it had gone around and landed up with me. But part of you proud of what you've done. But then I said, what happens in a few days when the guilt sets in? Because guilt will set in.
And what happens when the
Because
cops
you
knock on your
know
door?
that it's wrong.
Oh,
Oh, yes, I believe it. Because we all have unconscious guilt. And the guilt sets in. And then what's happening? Then you have that other part of you that you have to deal with. And most of us start suppressing that part of us. So it's like, oh, we make excuses why it was right. But actually, all we're doing is suppressing it. And then we perpetuate that ongoing thing. And we never get out of it. Instead of saying, look what I've done. Let me acknowledge it and either let it go, but what happens is most of us start to suppress it. Oh, look what I've done. Let me, you know, if you've had an affair and the affair is long gone, but you're still thinking about the affair that you had.
Well, if you think as well, because I was thinking about the worst case scenarios, and if you remember in Rwanda, when the Tutsis and the Hutus, they had that terrible genocide, and they've got the most successful African country at the moment, the way it's been rebuilt, the amount of reconciliation, families have come together and apologized, and there's been an unbelievable, apparently it's an unbelievable society now that they've built up, and they've managed to come back from that. I mean, that terrible place, they've managed to come back. The two of them have reached that conciliation. And that's also something that if you can think of how bad that went.
Yes.
I mean, that was horrific in the extreme. And it wasn't even about stealing stuff. It was about murdering people next door to you that you've known your whole life and whatever. So that for me was always. But now, if you look at, I don't know how many years, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, longer than that, but they have this apparently, the most unbelievable.
So there's been forgiveness.
Yeah, they've got a society where there's reconciliation, there's fairness, there's success, the economy's going again. Apparently, it's unbelievable what came out of that terror.
So, it was almost like a purging of all the egos.
Yeah.
You know, like it all comes out.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, we see just how horrific this is if you've experienced it. You know, just how twisted and tormented the ego is. Okay, well, we have to go in the opposite direction. There's no, I mean, this is hell.
If enough people decide that.
Yeah.
So I think that's where also, for me, it's that group energy, that cumulative consciousness becomes voluminous. You know, when you start to feel it. You know, you can feel it in your bones and you can feel it energetically. I suppose we all start, you know, the mass meditations, they've done those things where, like in New York, when enough of yogis meditated, they took
changes the
crime rates. Yeah. So
the 3.5% apparently is a magic number. If you get 3.5% of any population participating in a peaceful protest, that was 3.5%. It tips. The whole country will change if 3.5%. Change.
It's I think somebody's actually worked it out. And one of the books I've got, they talk about that percentage. And it's really scary.
I was reading an article, I've done a whole lot of research. All the peaceful movements, peaceful protests, it only took 3.5% of that population to engage in it actively for the change to happen. And then regimes came down So 3.5%, that's not that many. That's a few million people in any country.
And how many
Just-
people? There's 60 million in South Africa.
Yeah, so you're looking
60
at
now.
somewhere around 2 to 3 million. 2 to 3 million people engaging in some kind of peaceful. It was always peaceful. They said that was much more effective than the violent
No,
protests.
that's the thing.
Because more people would engage with it, and it came from the right spiritual place. And that would change. It would bring down corrupt regimes. It would create lasting change in the society. So actually,
It's
3.5%. You only need a few million people here to say, okay, enough. We've had enough of this. Whatever it is, let's change it, and it would change. Whether that maybe this was the start of it. It's a catalyst for some kind of awakening. So remember, the spirit is using always the ego's nonsense to awaken you and say, look at what the ego is. Look at how chaotic it is. But there's another way. I'll give you another way. And there's no, if the ego is so obviously bad and so obviously dysfunctional, doesn't work, then where else are you going to go? There's nowhere else to go but to the spirit and say, okay, well, we need to stand together, love, trust, community, all these kinds of values, because that's all that's going to work here. Clearly the opposite, looting and burning and this is not work. This doesn't work. This doesn't create a functional, happy world or society. So I think it was all, maybe it's a wake-up call. We all need it.
Yeah. So as I said, it's just for me, it was a really big thing. And I'm in a way, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. And I don't mean to say it because I didn't lose something I'm grateful, or because I wasn't damaged, I'm grateful. That's not what I mean at all. And I know lots of people died and it was terrible. But I'm grateful for the experience of understanding other things better.
Okay. That's all we have is our experience. And it's just showing you the value of your practice. Because if you hadn't been practicing, can you imagine? You might have been.
No,
You probably would have got on a plane and gone out of it, I guess.
no, I would have had.
But you would have been freaking
I
out.
would have been freaking out, and I would have been distraught, and I mean, my mind still goes there when you start to think of what's coming next, because they still have these WhatsApps and they say this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And it's still out there, and the police are still saying we're on high alert, and they've still got the army out there and all kinds of stuff. So you never know. That Medupi blow up recently. So they say that that it's a terrorist tactic what happened. So they said it still potentially can happen, but you can't think about it.
Well, it was an attempted coup, actually. That's what that was. And no, the whole thing. It was an attempted coup. They wanted to destabilize the country and take power. And it didn't work. So where you go from there? They're going to try again? I think enough people said, no, actually, this isn't acceptable. We're not going to allow this. We're going to stand together. And if enough people stand for truth and rightness, the ego can't get a hold. I don't think they're going to succeed.
The people coming together afterwards is the biggest show. This isn't happening.
It's not happening. There's too many good people. There's too many people with the right values to allow essentially criminal agents to hijack the country and take it over, because that's what they are. And so it was a sign of actually, no, there's a strength in this country that maybe we didn't realize, that there's enough good people who will stand together against this kind of stuff, that it won't spread, it won't happen.
And you know what it's like? It's almost like that, that United Nations thing is you bring the sword to be made into plowshares, when they explored the United Nations. And that's also for me is that, what I mean, there was no talk of race or color or stature or whatever, just normal people in their jeans and their tackies. Fat, thin, old, young, and the list of people together. Signing up, it was amazing, because they said everybody, we need people, we're running out of people to do shifts, we're doing 2-hour shifts, and then you're just saying here, John Smith, and you have to get date of birth, because they had to have a date of birth. You could see it was a dad and his 26-year-old boy and his 19-year-old boy. And then all of us older people were going on, and they said, guys, we need some young people, because we were all putting the people out there with their old dates of birth. So people from guys who
different generations
were willing to go and stand out there, down to people who were taking their 18-year-old boy with them out there. It was everybody. Nobody asked you, can you bring a gun, or what are you bringing? You just went
bring yourself.
Come and watch. We need eyes. We need people. And I think that whole energy of that was.
And that probably stopped it, because just those people standing there, now the looters are like, okay, we've got to face these people. Okay, maybe they don't have weapons, but still, there's a group of people and they have an awareness, they have a consciousness,
And
and they're willing to stand
what
and
they're
face
saying
us.
as well is that the police, you know, we were working with the police.
Hmm.
So what they'd say is you're on a group and they'd say, as soon as you pick up anything, you
Hmm.
radio it in,
Hmm.
you know, suspicious vehicle, no
Yes.
number plates, no license, just
Hmm.
clearing through here.
Hmm.
Or, you know, anyone who had jerry cans in the back of their cars, they weren't allowed to fill
Yeah.
jerry cans. They
Yeah.
shut down the petrol stations, you couldn't get petrol for
Hmm.
4 days.
Hmm.
So all of that kind of stuff. And then you just radio it in,
Hmm.
and then the police would be able to go where they wanted to go.
Hmm.
But that also shows to me is that you're willing to support, everybody's willing to support the structure of society
Hmm.
for everybody's safety and well-being. And that also hasn't been there before. You know what I mean? We've always been a bit wary of police, you know,
Yeah.
especially for Gauteng, I'm very wary of police, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm really
So
worried
what a-
about them. But
Yeah.
because you have a bad
Bad
vibe
experience.
and you've heard
Yeah.
bad things about them. But in this situation, it kind of it just gelled.
Well, they were doing what they were supposed to do. You know, they're supposed to maintain law and order so that you can have a stable, peaceful society.
It was just.
No, I think they were trying, they were just, it's at so
Overwhelmed.
many places, at so many times, all at once, that they were
And they weren't
overwhelmed, they
prepared.
weren't prepared.
No.
They say they were quite blunt about it, we were not prepared for this. We had 400 people available for for all the shifts. Now, all of a sudden, they had to deal with how many hundreds of thousand people going through there. It's not easy
The
to do.
Minister of Defence was informed quite early. Remember, there was that whole thing that.
But I don't think they wanted to get the army involved because
They wanted to see. if they
basically
could-
what you're saying then is now, you know, it's a
and
state of
they
emergency.
didn't take that.
And that has implications. State of emergency means martial law.
No, not stated.
Well, that if you empower the army, anyway.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, let's carry on, shall we?
Okay.
So anyone got anything else to share? Otherwise, let's do a bit of practice, shall we? Let's have a look at the course. Corin's my miracle. My cat is home. Well, that's great. She lost her cat.
No,
Well done.
well done.
Or not, whatever. It's just done its cat thing, gone. Well, I just went for a little stroll. What's the problem? Why are you worried?
Cats are like
Cats
that.
are like that, yeah. My sister came home after 2 weeks. And she, the cat can hear the noise. The cat's like not moving. just spark there. Because the things that can get some chicken off me. So it's just like, nah, whatever. You know, the dogs will cats like, whatever, when I'm ready.
So, I mean, my cat's not left the property in about 7 years.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
So so Bruce left the gate open by mistake this morning. I got up and the kitten, thank heavens, was at home. But this old guy with kidney disorder and everything had disappeared completely. So I went walking, I went driving, I put it out in the group. Eventually I got a message from one of the guys on the group, and I went to the house and he was nowhere to be seen.
But he arrived back of his own accord, did he?
No, I found him. Like I was in this guy's yard. I've never been into anybody else's house in the street since I've been living here for like 7-8 years. And he said, no, let's go look outside. Let's go look back down by the swimming pool. And they just went walking. Him and his wife went walking. And I just listened to my intuition and I said, let me just walk this way. And this little guy came out from this drain, like completely freaked. I was on my own. And he just looked at me and he just went, wow. Yeah. No, so that was the miracle for today. It was
good.
just,
Good.
oh no, I saw him and he's got renal disorder. So if he doesn't drink pure, clean, fresh water all day, he won't survive. So he wouldn't have survived the night. So
Okay, well,
that was my miracle. And he's my miracle kitty. He was the firstborn out of a litter of 6. He was stillborn. I pulled his tail. He survived. So yeah, it's small in terms of like the violence and everything that we have, but it's big in terms of how I feel about my babies.
And there's that starfish story, you know. So, you know the starfish story? Yeah.
it's a-
Guys, you know, throwing starfish back into the sea, and he says, "Why are you doing that? You know, there's not so many of them." He says, "Well, it made a difference to that one. It certainly made a difference to that." So, yeah, these little miracles. Okay, shall we do a little bit of reading? I think these lessons are really powerful. So let's have a little read of these. I think these are review lessons. We are on to workbook lesson 57, the review lesson. So it's 5 in 1, and they're these little they're like little sutras. I love them actually. They're really powerful. So we'll just take turns. Everyone read a paragraph, and then we'll move into the text. Robin, do you want to start?
Yes, sure.
Paragraph 1.
Okay.
I'm not the victim of the world I see.
I'm not the victim of the world I see. How can I be the victim of the world and be completely undone if I so choose? My chains are loosened and drop them off merely by desiring to do so. The prison door is open. I can leave simply by walking out. Nothing holds me in this world. Only my visits, only my wish to stay keeps me a prisoner. I would give up my insane wishes and walk into the sunlight at last.
Nice. Anything stand out for you?
Well, I think it's definitely, I mean, it's definitely what's the ticker tape that's running through your brain is your reality. And if you've got the wrong one going on, if you're going to be insanely sad and crazy.
You're going to be a victim, which is the lowest self-concept the ego can invent.
Yeah.
I'm the victim of the world, so I'm actually all powerful. I have this perfect love and light, but yet I'm going to believe that I'm a victim of these so-called, you know, people and external forces, which I have no control over. So it's completely disempowering, and it makes you feel very little, very, very small, very weak, very afraid. It's not a good self-concept.
And you stop living your life. You stop
Yeah.
trying to do things.
You live in fear. You get angry, fear and anger. And you know, this whole path is about undoing that self-concept, saying you're not the victim of the world you see because you made it up. How can you be the victim if you invented it?
Yeah.
Which is then his next one. I've invented the world I see.
I have invented the world I see. I made up the prison in which I see myself. All I need do is recognize this, and I'm free. I have deluded myself into believing it is possible to imprison the Son of God. I was bitterly mistaken in this belief, which I no longer want. The Son of God must be forever free. He is as God created him, and not what I would make of him. He is where God would have him be, and I enter, and not where I thought to hold him prisoner.
Anything stand out for you?
Yeah. I was bitterly mistaken in this belief, which I no longer want. The Son of God must be forever. I don't think we realize enough how much our thoughts imprison us.
You start to when you do this work.
Yeah,
You start to go, what? Just the default thought system is judgment and fear, and when you start to observe those thoughts and you go, what the hell? How can I ever expect to be happy if I'm thinking these thoughts? Can't. So it's just it's starting to come into awareness. Okay, this is, and it's very deeply entrenched. This thought system, it's what you think is real. It's what you think you are. This is how the world works. And even when you start going, you start pushing up against it, you notice how your mind doesn't want to go there. It's part of your mind wants to stay in.
It says here the wish to stay.
The wish to stay in the illusion. Part of your mind doesn't want to be free. But at least when you recognize that, okay, this is the game. This is what I'm up against. It's a very deeply entrenched thought system. It doesn't want me to be free. It wants me to be the victim. It wants me to fear and get upset and be angry. And it's continuously creating apparent situations in my life that trigger that justify it. Oh my God, what a game this is. I mean, this is a mind game of note. And if you don't have this awareness, well, you don't have this mind training. You're gonna. You're just the victim of the world you see. You're going to be upset all the time. You're going to be angry, frustrated, which is why there's so much pain and so much suffering, so much stress in this.
But there's also the good side.
There is.
That's the problem. Because you enjoy.
Well, it's to see the good side is really the love that comes through. There's nothing in the
The
form.
ego good side.
But the ego, see, it's this delusion. The ego good side is the opposite side of the coin. Desire. Oh, I want something. Oh, this is going to get me something. But it's the same. It's the same thing as aversion. You made it real.
People watching, like Terry used to say, it's pointless going to watch a match and not taking sides. Otherwise, there's no fun. He used to say.
But you can just enjoy the process. And go, actually, it doesn't matter who wins or loses. Like I watched the highlights. Springboks played again yesterday. I didn't watch it, but I watched the highlight. And they scored 3 brilliant tries. Now, it doesn't, if the other side had scored those, I still would have appreciated it because there's just brilliance. There's like a moment of total, like, wow, how did you do that? Quite amazing. Just appreciate, what happens if the mind is free and people are in their flow, what they can do. It's not about who won or lost. It's appreciating, and almost I think there's, when we watch, like say, top sport, as an example, there's a connection, there's an appreciation of that. Like, how do these guys do what they do under such immense pressure, right? Whatever it is, the final of Wimbledon, the World Cup final, everyone's watching, like you're on display, and yet they're not thinking about that. They're in the zone. Because they're not self-obsessed. You see that you have to go beyond your self-concept. You cannot play at that level and be in your little self-concept. Because your little self-concept is going to be, ooh, what happens if I mess up next? What happens if if I make a boo-boo? What happens if the whole world judges me? You can't be there. You've just got to be, okay, I'm just here and I'm doing it, and all of that disappears. And so you're in your flow and you let go of the little self. And there's something I think that we appreciate when we watch people who are doing it in that state of mind. It kind of connects us with that state in us and go, wow, like actually everyone would like to be able to do that, but very few people do because they don't know how to do it. But you watch because you get it vicariously. And so it's not even about the winning.
Practice. I mean, going to the practical side. Saying this is
they practice for hours and hours and hours to be in that state, to get into that state of mind and be able to do it. So, in the same way, well, why do we expect that enlightenment, which is like the ultimate human accomplishment, would be easier? It's mind training. You've got to practice and practice and practice. Because now you're talking about so deeply entrenched thoughts and emotions. And without the training to really observe them and be able to let them go, it's just not going to happen. And it's a lifelong practice. So practice.
There is another way of looking at the world. Since the purpose of the world is not the one I ascribe to, there must be another way of looking at it. I see everything upside down, and my thoughts are the opposite of truth. I see the world as a prison for God's Son. It must be then that the world is really a place where we can be set free. I would look upon the world as it is and see it as a place where the Son of God finds his freedom. And I know it intellectually. It's the opposite, upside down. I'm just thinking of Terry there because when I first came to Terry's courses, I said to him, they said, the first question he always asks, do you know how to meditate? Or have you meditated? And I said, funnily enough, I've got a backswing, and the only time I can meditate is when I'm upside down. So he said, perfect. He said, that's perfect. Or something like that. Because the world is upside down, he said to me.
Yeah, it is an upside down thought system.
It is. I see everything upside down and my thoughts are the opposite of the truth. That
I
is my
don't think we
thinking.
want to believe that.
Yes, we don't want to, we can't kind of conceptualize that. All my thoughts are actually upside down.
Hmm. I'm crazy, basically. I'm insane. I think what is sane, but actually it's not sane at all.
Yes.
Thinking you're human is not the same condition for the mind.
Well, I
To-
thought
to
I was being
identify
very
it.
sane, thinking I'm right, you see, the universe was on my side. There we go, the place was closed. We couldn't have lunch.
Oh, it's a setup. The whole thing's a setup.
So,
Yeah, because
So they
the
are-
entire world is a setup for the ego to convince us that what is untrue is true.
Yeah.
So whatever you're thinking within the world's construct, whatever you're perceiving, even if on the level of form you're, well, I'm right and you're wrong, you're still wrong. This is what Jesus
I
is saying.
thought you said.
You're still wrong because you're making it all real.
Yes, I'm making it.
You make it real, you're not justifying conflict. You're justifying a separate self. I'm right, you're wrong. You're wrong, because actually none of
I
it
wasn't, I
is
was
true.
right.
Within the narrow ego framework, yes, but the whole thing is wrong. This is what Jesus is trying to
What
remind
led up
us.
to it was totally.
It's all wrong. You know, any idea of a separate self and that you can actually have
What
conflict
would
is
you have
wrong.
done in my, what would you have done?
Well, I don't know, I wasn't in the situation, but I probably would have laughed.
Yes, that's what the truth is.
I probably would have gone, okay, well, just gone, okay, it's fine, stay there. You go, I'm going.
No, I said I'm going, and then he called me a selfish bitch and this and that and God knows.
I would just say, well,
You just think,
look in the mirror, because
I did.
whatever you're judging in yourself. You know, I don't know, it can get difficult when you're in a conflict situation, you know, but don't get sucked in. If you laugh,
But
then the worst thing you can do to
laugh-
someone who wants you to take it
laugh
seriously is
and
laugh
walk
at them.
out, he would have been so angry.
Exactly, because he wants you to take it seriously. You just go, whatever,
Bye.
I'm going to the shops, bye, have a nice
Yeah,
day.
it's on my way to.
Cheers. And you just don't engage, you know, don't go there. Because he wants to draw you into the conflict and make it real, and you know, that's the ego's intention.
I create the conflict because I'm set the time, let's leave now. Anyway.
Well, it's a co-creation, but you just go, well,
But he's
there's no
there-
time,
he's
so
there-
why are we getting upset? Okay, if you don't want to come, then fine,
No,
I'm
it's
going.
not that he didn't want to, he's made arrangements with a friend of his.
Yeah, but he wasn't ready,
He
so
wasn't ready,
yeah.
but anyway.
My dad just goes, my dad takes it to the extreme. He's like giving me a lift to the airport. You gotta laugh. Oh well, if you're not ready in 5 minutes of going without you. I'm like, good luck, Dad. You're taking me to the airport, so what? You gotta laugh. Just how insane the ego is. I'm like, good luck, man. Have a trip to the airport. Check it out and then come back and tell me what it's like. You gotta laugh, man. But it's obsession with time. He's like, it has to be on time. I'm like, but you're taking me. And he's retired. There's nothing else to do. It's just priceless. You just gotta laugh. I just laughed. I was like, well, good luck, Dad. Off you go then. Have a trip to the airport without me.
I have got an obsession with time.
Well, so maybe there's a lesson there for you.
Yeah.
It's like if you hadn't been so,
If it's 1 o'clock, I can call, let's make lunch.
if you hadn't been so like, you could go, okay, well, you know, I'll get the car ready, just come in 5 minutes and we can go. And there wouldn't need to be a conflict.
No, because you will find something else to do. Who's find something?
Well, then you just go. So I waited 5 minutes and you weren't ready and I hooted and you didn't come, so I left. So be it, you know, it's your choice. But without drama, without conflict, okay, well, you know, whatever. If you want to stay, then you stay. I'm going.
Yeah, but who's finishing that? Then we can go.
Yeah, we'll
What
finish
about, are
that.
the others gone already?
No, I think they're still here.
It's 1 and 2 of them.
Anyone else like to read?
I could see peace instead of this, oh, really?
Where are we? I could see peace instead
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah,
John, will you read it for us?
yeah. I could see peace instead of this. When I see the world as a place of freedom, I realize that it reflects the laws of God instead of the rules I made up for it to obey. I will understand that peace, not war, abides in it. And I will perceive that peace also abides in the hearts of all who share this place with me.
Now that's so powerful. I mean, really, wow. I could see peace. Even in your riots, I could see peace instead of this. Because I can change my perception no matter what's going on. Even if I'm in a war zone, I could see peace instead of this.
Yes, and it's also not personal.
Yeah. Reflects the laws of God instead of the rules I made up for it to obey.
David and I were watching a movie. It's called, if you find it, please watch it. It's actually it's quite a comical as well. It's about the First World War. It's a true story, and it's called The Wipers' Times. And it's about a group in the war, and they find a printing machine, and they decide to put out a newspaper, but they're only making it full of comedy. They're in the middle of a war, and they decide they're going to do this newspaper. But the commanding officer of the group is the one who decides this, but he's actually got a sense of humor, and they find funny things to write. But every now and then they're putting poetry and things people have written, from all the army guys. Not the commander, not the and the other person under lieutenant or somebody who's not even at the front. He's in Britain because he's a British guy who's putting out this newspaper. What starts to happen, because they're making it funny and finding something to laugh about, these guys start surviving. They literally start surviving, and they'll end up going to the Psalms twice, and not one of them get killed, which is quite an interesting thing if you think of it. But they finding joy in funny
hell.
things in this hell that they're living. And every now and then they write about the mad and everything else.
Yeah.
And this officer who's in charge is so mad that these guys have the audacity to be happy, that he wants to bring them up on charges. But the big boss in charge, he says, but this is the best thing that's ever happened.
Tell them we're going.
The concept of what's right and wrong is so twisted, because these guys were happy and they were starting to enjoy, and they were there for 3 years, just trying to survive for 3 years.
They found joy in that.
And they found joy and laughed, and they would put on these concerts and just made the most, because actually a lot of the time they were doing nothing other than digging trenches or going over the trench. But the rest of the time they were stuck in these trenches. But can you see how twisted our minds can be? These guys were trying to find something to be happy about. And eventually they couldn't sell enough papers, because they were just, people were so interested in these papers that
people want to be uplifted,
and yet this person right at the top was like, no, it's wrong, and how can they say this, and do all, and he wanted to bring up charges against the guy, and then he goes in to try and catch them out in the place of spotless and everything in the piano and all sorts of things. But it just goes to show how twisted our minds can be. And I'm talking about me as well. There are times I get drawn into the news or the riots, and immediately there's a part of you that's going, this is wrong. There's a part of you, your first thought is, this is wrong. Or I have to leave the country. Or now my children must leave the country. They can't live like this. But then the moment you stop that, and you reason, oh no, I don't need to think that. So we can
see peace
yes, we can see peace instead of that. And when my kids said, no, you and dad have to find a way to get it, I said, no, why? We have a good life here. We have a good life. But I just think it's a true story. If you guys get to see it, it's
we'll do it as a movie watching.
Time.
The Wipers' Time.
WIPE. Wipers' Time.
Okay.
Times, like Times, you know, the
Writers'
Times,
yeah.
the newspaper.
Oh, I see that.
Well, we're doing movie watching units.
Oh, yeah. It's really powerful to see actually how the Holy Spirit's moving through this guy. And he's saying, you don't have to see the war as dreadful. Even though you're in it, even though you're here, even though you're stuck here. And it keeps this, I can't remember who he is, but the commanding officer keeps sending him to the worst places, thinking, oh, well, he's going to get him killed. But I think their joy and finding something to laugh about actually saves them all the time. And he's like, they have run. And in one of the skits, they say, no, they can teach anybody to be an alcoholic in 3 days. But they're laughing at themselves, you know. So, you know, and anybody who doesn't drink, I don't drink. So I was thinking, oh, this is hilarious. But anybody else say, oh, no, you know, if you've been an alcoholic, no, you shouldn't watch it. But
they're making lights of everything.
They're making lights.
Because what else can you do?
Of the fact they were drinking rum, and they would actually pass rum out before they went over the wall to give them Dutch courage, you know. So they were making light of it, and yet this guy saw how awful it was. And it's exactly, we can choose peace in any moment, even if you're in the middle of another war.
And one of the previous texts, because we're working our way through the text, a couple of, I don't know if anyone remembers, but a couple of days ago, we did the confusion of pain and joy.
Yeah.
Just how the ego confuses pain and joy, which is exactly, you know, what you're talking about.
No, it's in the text.
It's in the text.
I'll send you the
text. What is it? I think it's section, chapter 7, section 10 or 11, 10 or something. Confusion of pain and joy, and saying, well, if you're confused about who you are, then you're going to be confused about what's painful and what's joyful. Because to the ego, what is joyful to the spirit is painful to the ego. So there's a, you know, that chap was like, oh, this is not the rules and the regulations, and it's not all the pain and the suffering. You should stay in it.
Yes.
So it's a complete inversion of, it's upside down.
It's section 10.
Yeah, section 10 of chapter 7. Yeah, confusion of pain and joy.
Okay. Chapter 10, section 10.
Chapter 10, section 7.
Page
Yeah.
133.
Okay. So where were we? I could see peace instead of this. Anything stand out for anyone there? Is anyone still on? Let me just check this. It's actually happening. No, I think we're still on. Is anyone still there? I don't know.
I'm still here, but you didn't hear me, so.
street. Instead, it's actually going backwards and forwards.
No, backwards, no.
Right. We're back. Sorry. Anyone still there?
Yeah, Hazel, but you didn't hear me.
Hazel's still there. Okay. Yeah, we can hear you. Everyone else has dropped off. I don't know why that is. Maybe they got tired of it. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, let's should we do a bit of text? Yeah. Let's have a look see it. I'll share my screen again. How long was I disconnected for? So I might have been for a while. It's difficult to know when you.
No, because didn't John read that?
He did, yeah.
And then
But then there was
just
about
shortly
5
after.
minutes. You shared your story.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we have a read of? We're on the Holy Encounter, section 3, chapter 8. It's not a particularly long one, so I think we've still got time. It's 8 paragraphs. So. Robin, do you want to start?
Page 151.
Section 3,
No,
chapter
no,
8.
not in the lessons, in the actual.
In the text. Yeah. Called the Holy Encounter. We've got it here. Actually.
Okay, mine might not be the same as yours.
Okay, it's chapter 8, section 3.
There we go.
Thank you.
Simple.
That's better.
The Holy Encounter.
Okay, so one, yeah, right. Glory to God in the highest, and to you because he has so willed it. Ask and it shall be given to you, because it has already been given. Ask for light and learn that you are light. And if you want understanding and enlightenment, you will learn it. Because your decision to learn it is the decision to listen to the teacher who knows of light and can therefore teach it to you. There's no limit on your learning because there's no limit on your mind. There's no limit on his teaching because he was created to teach. Understanding his function perfectly, he fulfills it perfectly because that is his joy and yours. To fulfill the will of God perfectly is the only joy and peace that can be fulfilled.
Oh, well, stop. One paragraph at a time. You can keep it. It's fine. So anything stand out for you there?
I think it just shows that there's only two parties involved. There's not, the world and the government, and there's just two people involved. There's just two parties involved in the whole equation. And I think if you can always boil it down to that, is that it's not, you're just dealing with one thing here. It's yourself and
Other self.
the real thing. Well, the real thing, you know what I mean?
The false self
It's
and
who
the
you
true
think
self.
you are, and yeah, so it's actually quite simple if you boil it down to that level. But there's not 19 different things going on. There's only one thing going on. If you keep focused on it.
Because your decision to learn is the decision to listen to the teacher who knows of light, and therefore teach it to you. There is no limit on your learning. Any questions on that or anything stand out?
No, I didn't. I wasn't practicing.
Okay. You want to read it again?
No, no, sorry, I just about want to go home. I'm cold.
I don't think it's any warmer at home.
It's not actually. Yes, I have my hot water bottle in my
Just
bed.
be here, be present
Be
fully.
here now, yes.
Be here now, exactly. Okay, so yeah, just beautiful. I mean, some of these passages, you can't not read that and not be touched. You know, to know of light. There's some very expansive. Ask for light and learn that you are light. If you want understanding and enlightenment, you will learn it because your decision to learn it is the decision to listen to the teacher who knows of light and can therefore teach it to you. So it's a decision. It's just your choice. You decide. You want light? You want light or darkness? That's the choice. It's very simple. Like no matter what's going on in the world, that's the choice. It always has been, and it always will be. In every situation, do I choose the light? Do I choose the darkness? Do I vacillate between the two? Because often we do. It's like, why don't I just stay in the light? Because there's clarity there, there's peace, there's happiness, there's joy. Why would I choose anything else? Doesn't make any sense. This is what Jesus is trying to teach us. No, because the ego has convinced you that you're not choosing, but you are. You've chosen the opposite of love, but you can choose love. There's always that choice in every situation. It's just you've chosen so fully the ego, and now you think you're here in this body, aging, suffering, dying, etc. And that's just not true. That was a choice that we made a very, very long time ago, which we forgot we made the choice.
But that's the frustration. When I do my lessons, I actually feel guilty because it says you can do this every, within an hour, do it 3 or 4 times. I forget.
Yeah, welcome to. I don't think there's any person who's ever done A Course in Miracles workbook perfectly. It just doesn't happen because it's a high standard. He's saying like every hour.
But in the first, when I read it, it's so meaningful, and I say to myself, this is so important. Can you feel the importance of it?
Yeah, and you forget.
I thought, yeah.
You talk to Fritz and it all goes out the window.
They don't even have to talk to me. You're busy in the garden and you're then doing this, and my mind's trying to create something here and do something there. It's always busy. Do things. And then I've got the books lying there open.
And I've forgotten. Yeah. Well, you keep remembering.
That feeling of guilt, I will give it up then, you're not getting it. But I'm not going to give up this time. And instead of going back, which I used to stay on one page for one lesson.
No, wasn't it lesson 72? Was your demon hit the wall at 72 and be like, yeah, he's stopping it. Just carry on, do it to the best of your ability. That's all.
Well, I don't think it's the best because I think I've done it once or twice in the whole.
But you did it.
But
better than not doing.
Wapnick, in one of his talks, he says, if you get to the end of the day and you haven't even practiced once, don't feel guilty about it. Just forgive yourself
for not
doing it and carry on from the next moment. Yeah. And one of the lessons he says, you will forget.
Yeah, I'm saying.
He's quite blunt about it. And he says, you have learned the ego's way so well and practiced it so well that this is a way of undoing the ego.
Yeah. So you are going to forget.
You are going to forget.
The ego doesn't want you to remember. Yeah. In fact, they say one of the quickest, you know what the cure for insomnia is? Just read the course.
Yeah. And
full bed for 5 minutes. It's mental surgery.
Yeah. And it's not just that, even, just not focusing on what the ego wants you to focus on. Quickly make you go to sleep or anything. But it's really, that's why we do the lessons and that's why we do this, read the text, is so that we can undo our minds. And he says this is a course in untraining your mind from what you know. And we've learned it so well. He actually says so well that we're not even aware of it.
It's become the default thought system. But to unwind all of that.
But I'm older than I'm allowed to be
maybe it gets harder as you get older.
Yeah, it does, because
you're younger, you've got less to let go of. So more open to these kinds of ideas. But well, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Just forget it. Forget the world, he's saying. Forget the world, forget this course, and come with holy empty hands unto your God. It's that openness. I had that little experience. Just that's all it is. It just is. Always has been. It's always there. It has never gone away. And you just covered it over with all of your ridiculous thoughts and feelings about a world that doesn't even exist.
Because I'm doing this is the reason why I'm forgetting so much.
Maybe, but that's not a bad thing.
Yes.
I heard David Hoffman. Have you heard David Hoffman's talk on Alzheimer's?
No.
Quite interesting. Yeah. So he said, no, there's this guy, and he's gone so into Alzheimer's that he's reverted to like childhood. And so his wife's kind of giving him a little playpen, and all he can say is, child of God, city of God, child of God. So he's pointing, he's making his little city of God. So it's almost like that's all his mind consciously, intellectually can hold,
Yes.
but he's connected to like a spirit,
Yes.
to the spirit of God, that previously, when he was so-called sane,
Yes.
he was disconnected from that. And now he's come back
So I
into
have
this
to go
pure
and-
awareness of child of God, city of God, and that's all he can say. It's like, well, is that a bad thing? In his last years in his last years to like connect with God on a deep level, I mean, surely you'd want that.
I hadn't thought of that.
So forgetting the world is not a bad thing.
What's happening to the mind? I mean, it's
No,
I want to get out of it.
no,
When you go into-
And
you forget.
I know when my mother-in-law was still around and I would get there, the whole time I was there, every few moments, she'd say, so what will you do? Even though I've told her, but 2 minutes later, so what have you been doing?
Yeah.
Because that's all, she was only living
Present.
in this moment.
No.
And people say to me, how can we stand it? I mean, it's only be 50 times in 3 hours that you're there. But you know what? I realized how much she was bringing me into the present.
Yes.
Mm.
Because this was the only moment that she didn't remember what I'd said. So I had a choice of being present in this moment.
Mm.
And so I found that actually quite rewarding of being present in this moment each time she'd ask the question.
Mm.
And my niece said, if it was me, I'd tell her I'd been sky jumping and mountain climbing.
Mm.
But I said 2 seconds later, she'd have forgotten that I'd been skydiving and asking me again anyway. So, you can make it interesting and have fun with it.
Well, playing cricket. I was doing bingo.
No.
But in society, it's so interesting.
Forgive as well. Forgive the
Because
frustration.
we have this, like, this is what's sane. We've got these definitions, and anyone who's outside of that very narrow construct is somehow abnormal, insane, mental problems. But actually, the people who really start going towards the light, they're going way, way out of that norm. So then, you can call them psychotic or put whatever label, or you're Spurgeous, or you.
What is
It's like, well, what does that even mean? It's a label. What does that even mean? It just means you're not thinking the way other people are thinking.
No.
Well, if the world is upside down, that's probably a very good thing that you're not thinking the way everyone's thinking.
Well,
because it's all upside down. It's all insane.
my husband does not like David Hoffmeister at all.
No doubt. No.
And I realized the reason he didn't connect with him is firstly because this was just foreign to him. I mean, we don't always connect either because I'm thinking one way and he's thinking the other way. But I think that Dave Hoffmeister reminded him of who he was. But the other side of him, the ego side of him, no, you don't want to go there. You don't want to remember that. You don't want to be part of that. And so he just decided there and then he didn't like him. And I was devastated when he told me, because when David was here, he stayed at our house, and I had these moments when I couldn't even remember what I wanted to ask him. And as soon as I was out of his presence, I forgot to ask him X, Y, Z, baby, D, E, F. And as soon as I was in his presence, my mind would go black. I'd go, where's the questions? They just gone. And I think maybe that was my experience because I was enjoying it. But David, my husband, was just reminded, this is who you could be, this is what you are. But he didn't want to go there. And I mean, he still tells me when I'm coming here, don't drink the
Kool-Aid.
the Oros. Oros. I said it was Kool-Aid.
There was a cult called, what was it? I can't remember.
Jim Jones.
Yeah, and there was a whole cult, and they drank poison Kool-Aid to like off themselves.
Yeah,
So hence the cult.
And so he still thinks of it as a cult, which is fine with me because this brings me peace. So if this is bringing me peace, I don't care really what anybody else thinks about it. But it's just his way of having fun as well. But how easily we are pushed by when we see truth, when we we see someone who's living in the light, who's just there. There's no. I remember when I was picking him up at the airport, I said to Louise, "Oh, I don't know what to feed him. I've got chicken and I've got salad and there must be vegetarians, being." And there he arrives, he's eating chocolate. He says, "Can we stop for a hamburger?"
I remember apparently after the retreat,
Yes.
I was taking
on the way back,
Pretty
it's like we just had a lunch and they're like, "Let's stop for a burger." We're like, "What? We just had lunch 2 hours ago. What's this?"
Yeah, he's lost weight again.
Has he?
But he wasn't thinking about it. He was just having a hamburger. And the one day we're driving back from one of the evenings, and we just, "Oh, McDonald's, can we have McDonald's?" I said, "Sure." Drove into McDonald's. But we have this stereotype of the type of person we think they should be. And then Gary arrived eating chocolate, wanting a hamburger, and wanting McDonald's. Just blowing all my preconceived ideas right out of the window.
Oh.
Did you speak to my son about his weight?
Are you still worried about your son's weight?
I did mention it. I said, "Your mother's really worried." No,
That's what you
he said, "I eat." He said, "I just, I don't put on weight.
No,
It's
no,
just
that's
is what it
not-
is."
I was there, they hardly eat.
Well, we had quite a nice meal. I brought some food.
Oh, yeah, thank God.
And he made it and I chatted to him.
No,
He seems pretty happy. So,
He seems happy. He's so sweet. Or you see him in the costume.
It's just a body.
I know, that's
Just a body. So what, Paul's doing his thing.
To fulfill the will of God perfectly is the only joy and peace that can be fully known, because it is the only function that can be fully experienced. Stop there. Shall I read it again?
Yeah.
To fulfill the will of God perfectly is the only joy and peace that can be fully known, because it is the only function that can be fully experienced.
Is that the whole paragraph?
No. When this is accomplished, then there is no other experience. Yet the wish for other experiences will block its accomplishment, because God's will cannot be forced upon you, being an experience of total willingness. The Holy Spirit understands how to teach you this, but you do not. That is why you need him and why God gave him to you. Only his teaching will release your will to God, uniting it with his power and glory and establishing them as yours. You share them as God shares them, because this is the natural outcome of their being.
Okay. Anything?
I think the part that the Holy Spirit understands how to teach this, but you do not. That is why you need him and why God gave him to you. Only his teaching will release your will to God, uniting it with his power and glory, establishing them as yours. I was watching a little YouTube thing of Dave Wolfmaster. He's talking about trusting the Holy Spirit enough, or being willing to trust the Holy Spirit enough, that once you do that, your path is made easy, that no stone will be in your way, nothing will be there to trip you up. And that really explains this in that complete way.
We had a movie evening recently. on something called The Hero's Journey.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you know Joseph Campbell's teaching, but he talks about doors will open. Doors will open where there were only walls before, if you follow your calling, which is the miraculous power. It's just another way of saying, you know, miracles happen. If you will take that leap of faith, if you will have the courage to leave your comfort zone and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to trust this power, you know, this power that's calling me to do this. This makes a deep breath.
I know it is. It is your choice all the time. There's no.
Well, there's a call. There's a power there that's calling you to adventure. It's calling you to go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's calling you to something new, but you've got to leave the security of your old behind. So, you know, for instance, my sister's thinking about selling her house. And I gave her a little pep talk yesterday, and I said, but you've got to let go. You cannot open into a new adventure of life if you're not willing to let go of the old, which in this case symbolizes her house and her old life.
Okay, so she's not willing to. She wants to sell her house.
No, she's got to buy it, essentially. But she's kind of like, oh, shall I? It's like the only way you're going to open up something new is if you're willing to let go of the
I'm
old.
willing to.
The same, I guess the same for you.
Why am I stuck with this house?
Well, maybe because you haven't let it go yet.
No,
Possibly.
you've got to visualize where you
Just let it go. Be willing to say,
Let it go.
the Holy Spirit will do it all for you. If you say, okay, I am actually willing.
Trusting the universe to.
Yeah, but what's your intention?
To go into it. It's a 2-bedroom little place in the woods.
And you really want that, or you're still attached to a house?
No, I'm not attached to. I had enough.
Okay. Well, if you really let it go,
There's something with the tenants, with the pool, or the this, or that.
if you really let it go,
I want to.
I mean, this guy just phoned up my sister for like no advertising.
But how did?
He had a business card from years ago, and he phoned her and said, "I'm looking for a house."
The same as you. I mean, she went to do a
So
house.
maybe you must ask Jonathan to send you his number. Maybe he'll find a buyer for your house.
Jonathan,
Hmm?
what are you doing?
No, ask his sister to give you the number so that Jonathan can give you the guy's number who wanted the house, so that maybe he's got a
Well,
buyer
I probably
for
wouldn't
your
do that because he wants to buy her house. Not
house.
another house.
I just see
He
just
would have distracted.
I know.
No, he's not he wants to
oh
buy
no, I thought it was an
in that
estate
area.
agent.
No, he's just a guy. He phoned her up. I mean, how's this for grace? Phones her up out of the blue, says, I've got this business card I got years ago, because she used to work for Property 24. Can you help me? I'm looking for property.
And then she's got his.
Yeah, and she says, well, you know, actually, mine's available, but she gave him some other tips on where he could look, and then he said, no, I like yours. And I want to buy
So
it.
he came and then.
So he wants to buy it. So out of the blue, I mean, and she's also struggled to sell it. So I mean, you know, if you really do it, you know, in your mind, it's okay. I'm willing to leave. Say to yourself, I'm really willing to leave.
Yes. Of course.
I'm willing to leave tomorrow,
Okay.
right? And I've really let go of any of my investments, because if you're honest with yourself, you need to be honest. You probably there's still some attachment to that.
Well, that's good.
Am I right? Well, be honest with yourself.
Not anymore. There was in the beginning of this.
Okay, well, just like I'm willing to let this go. I'm willing to, you know, there's a new phase in my life. In order to enter the new phase, I need to let go of the old. That's how it goes. I can't hold on to this house and enter into a new phase.
My rates keep going up. Everything keeps.
Jana,
going up.
I do start working soon to get rid of my day tomorrow.
Okay, so we
don't
how many paragraphs is that?
I think we got a lot.
6
so-
paragraphs.
Yeah,
Okay, so we read one more.
just one. Okay.
Okay, you want to read the
The will of the Father and of the Son are one by their extension. Their extension is the result of their oneness, holding their unity together by extending their joint will. This is perfect creation. This is perfect creation by the perfectly created, in union with the perfect creator. The Father must be fathered into His Son, because His own fatherhood must be extended outward. You belong in God, get the holy function of experience fatherhood by placing no limits upon it. Let the Holy Spirit teach you how to do this, for you can know what it means only if God can say. For you can know what it means. Let the Holy Spirit teach you how to do this, for you can know what it means.
It means you will know it only when he's taught it to you.
Only through him.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's something you can only get if he teaches it to you.
Because I think of the Lord's Prayer. And I always say thy will, which is my will be done.
It's true.
Because that's what it's saying, the will of the Father and the Son are one.
So all knowledge is yours. All power, all glory, all knowledge is yours.
So whatever is his will is my will.
Absolutely. You just don't always realize it. That's the whole problem. We've somehow separated ourselves from that state of mind, and we now think we have our own will and our own mind, and we can make our own decisions.
But I have decided my will is God wills.
But are you connected to that all the time?
Definitely.
Well, let's see, that's the thing.
No, yes, no.
To be connected to
Not that you feel guilty.
and it's just a feeling of love coming through.
Yeah.
A feeling of everything's okay, there's
I
love,
don't
there's
have
peace.
from a closer.
But you must.
I know.
No, don't start that now. We're winding up.
Because
Let's
it's
start a political discussion.
Okay.
Sorry.
To see that he's God too. Doesn't matter what he believes, he's still God. He's still God. They're just confused. They don't know who they are. All right, so shall we just do a little 2-minute meditation to wrap it up? So just sitting comfortably, take a nice deep breath in. And just breathing in all the love and the joy. We really had a lot of joy today, so feel that. Connect with that, breathe it into your heart. One hand in your heart center, connecting with your heart space. And feel the love and feel the joy, which is coming from the Holy Spirit. And that has connected us, it's united us. We've had a lot of fun and laughter. So feel the gratitude for all of that. Breathe it all in. Infusing every cell of your body, every pore of your skin, every part of your mind. And you're going to carry this with you for the rest of the afternoon and evening. So when it's said and so it's done. And as you exhale, just have a sense of extending this out. The big theme of the course is to know love, we must extend it. So extend this love and this joy and this gratitude out to everyone who's here in person or those who joined us online. For their presence, for sharing the love and the joy. And the more you give it, the more you experience it. So extend it out to everyone you know. Friends and family, acquaintances, your social network, and to everyone you don't know. That's the entire human race. Everyone just wants to experience love and joy. It's the deepest desire of every human being. And so by giving it to them, you're meeting their deepest need. And your own. So feel that fulfillment, feel that love and joy extending out from you, radiating out from you. And you're going to carry on doing that after the session for the rest of the afternoon and evening. It's not what he said, it's what he's done. Ready, just turn your open eyes. And give thanks. Thank you. Thank you for hosting us, Robert.
No, thank you for coming. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it was a great session.
So the message
I really
is taken
enjoyed
up
that.
as value as leaders matters.
Thank you, Hazel.
Made.
It was gone.
I'll
Okay.
take that for my husband if he does.
No.